When the message came through, I was standing under chandeliers that glistened like falling stars. The ballroom was alive with the hum of laughter, glasses clinking, and the low murmur of business talk. It was the annual gala thrown by my company, the kind of event where careers were built and destroyed. And in the middle of all that noise, my phone buzzed with 6 words that made every sound fade into silence. "I'm staying at David's tonight. Don't wait up." I stared at the screen, half expecting it to be some cruel autocorrect. My wife, Emma, had never been subtle with her frustrations. But this wasn't frustration. It was a declaration, a weapon fired straight into my chest. My hands tightened around the glass of champagne until I thought it might shatter. The irony was suffocating. For months, she had accused me of being married to my work, of showing more passion for board meetings than for her. She wasn't entirely wrong. Building a company from scratch meant I gave it my blood, my sweat, and often the hours she wished I spent with her. But betrayal wasn't what I thought she'd choose as her remedy. Across the room, I caught sight of David. Tall, charismatic, a mid-level executive with ambition burning in his eyes. He was laughing with a cluster of colleagues, unaware that his name had just set fire to the ground I stood on. The pieces clicked into place faster than I wanted to admit. The late nights Emma claimed she was at the gym, the sudden shift in her wardrobe, the faint cologne I never wore but sometimes smelled on her. For a moment, rage threatened to take control. I could storm across the ballroom, drag him out by his tie, make a scene that would end his career and humiliate her. But then, something inside me shifted. Emma had chosen her battleground recklessly. She had fired her shot while I stood in a room full of allies, investors, journalists, and competitors. If she wanted to humiliate me, she had underestimated my ability to turn pain into strategy. I slipped my phone back into my pocket and forced my expression into the calm mask I'd perfected over years of negotiations. The CEO, Richard, approached me just then, clapping me on the shoulder. "Michael, the board is thrilled with this quarter's numbers. You've done outstanding work." I smiled, steady, even as the echo of Emma's message burned in my mind. "Thank you, Richard. Tonight marks the beginning of something new." The words felt heavier than he realized, because in that moment, I decided that Emma's betrayal would not end with me broken. It would end with her realizing she had mistaken silence for weakness. And David would learn that climbing a ladder on someone else's marriage was a move that left you dangling without a foothold. As the night carried on, I mingled, smiled, and let the weight of the room shift back in my favor. Emma thought she had caught me off guard. What she didn't know was that her message had given me clarity sharper than any boardroom revelation ever had. I didn't respond to Emma's message right away. A reply fired in anger would only feed her narrative, that I was too consumed by my ego, too impulsive to handle her needs. No, this wasn't the time for anger. It was the time for precision. An hour later, as the speeches wrapped up and the dance floor filled with couples, I finally typed my response. Just 7 words. "Enjoy your night. Don't come home again." I hit send, slid the phone back into my pocket, and let the weight of it settle. Across the ballroom, I watched David's phone light up on the table. His laughter faltered for just a second, his eyes scanning the screen before flicking nervously around the room. He hadn't expected me to know. Not tonight, not this way. By then, word had already started to spread. My closest colleagues, men and women who had watched me build this company brick by brick, saw David pale and stutter through small talk. They saw me remain calm, engaged, even charming as I discussed mergers and projections with the city's elite. The contrast was unmistakable. He looked guilty. I looked untouchable. Later that night, as I stepped onto the balcony for a breath of cold air, Richard joined me again. He lifted his glass. "You've always had the sharpest instincts in this company, Michael. I hope you know you're next in line when I step down." I clinked my glass against his and allowed myself a quiet smile. Emma's timing couldn't have been more poetic. The same night she thought she'd cut me down, I was being raised higher than ever. When I returned home, I didn't wait for explanations. I didn't wait for apologies, tears, or promises to change. The locks were changed by morning. Her closet was emptied into neat boxes, delivered to her parents' house before noon. Bank accounts were split by the book, with no extra generosity left to soothe her conscience. Emma did call, of course, over and over, first in rage, then in panic, then in something that almost sounded like sorrow. But every time, my silence was my answer. She had already spoken her truth in that text message. I had simply listened. David, on the other hand, didn't last long at the company. The whispers turned into questions, and the questions turned into decisions from the top. A man who couldn't manage his personal boundaries had no place negotiating billion-dollar deals. Within a month, his office was empty. And me? Carried on. Stronger, sharper, wiser. Not because Emma had betrayed me, but because she had shown me the gift of clarity. She revealed what was fragile, what was false, and what I no longer needed to carry. The gala had been a celebration of success, but for me it became the night I shed dead weight. My wife thought her absence would leave me broken. Instead, it left me free. And when people ask me now about that night, I tell them the truth. Sometimes, the most painful text you'll ever receive is also the one that sets you free.